A grand jury indicted a rapper on charges connected to a deadly club shooting last year.
Hey, what's up? This your boy Big Man. You already know what it is, man. So let's get right to it. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about Foogiano. Now say it isn't so, man. The last time we checked in with Foogiano, things were looking good. It looked like he was beating some charges. Now this time, we checking in with Foogiano because his name is on national headlines right now because he just caught some Fed charges, man. It looks like Foogiano was indicted on some Fed charges, and it's for a case that people thought probably got swept under the rug or would never come back to bite the rapper. Now, before we get to the specifics and talk about all of this, man, it's a lot, man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And, man, let's get it. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, man, let's talk about Foogiano and this Fed case, or these Fed charges he just caught, man. Now, for some of you, you might forget, man, Foogiano, he's a rapper that's still signed with 1017, man. He jumped out the gate, burst on the scene, just like Pooh Shiesty, man. Both of these cats were taking off like rockets. It looked like Gucci Man was the super mastermind A&R that everybody proposes that he is, right? Well, one after another, the dominoes started to fall. Foogiano first, then Pooh Shiesty, and things haven't been the same for 1017 since. Now, they've signed other artists, but Foogiano and Pooh Shiesty, their impact when they came into the game was so big that you just knew that we were going to be hearing from him a long time, man. Now, Foogiano, the last time I checked in with him, he had just gotten some charges removed, man. It looked like he had beat some cases. And, man, let's actually look at the clip from that.
Happy. My boy Happy.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was footage of Foogiano leaving the courthouse. You saw him all smiles. It looked like this thing was going to be behind him because the cases that he had, we're looking at, I think, like the mandatory, like the most time he would probably see is like 5 years, I think, for most people's estimate. Even the news said something like that, right? And, you know, it was for a gun case, and then he had the situation with his ankle monitor, but nobody saw this case coming. Except, man, I knew it was lurking in the background because they kept bringing it up every time they talked about Foogiano. When I say they, I'm talking about mainstream media. They was like, yo, Foogiano had this situation happen in South Carolina, so it kind of kept it on your radar. Now, based on the rumors that were out there and a lot of the local news stories that had came out when the shooting first took place, and what's crazy is this took place like the night that I think like the 1017 renewed album came out. Like he came into the game with this situation, right? Now, when this happened, I didn't think that there would be any way to implicate Foogiano just because we had never heard anything else about it really, you know, not as far as him getting charges. And it's been well over a year, let alone hear about Foogiano being indicted with 2 Fed charges from this situation. Now, there's a lot of local news outlets that are reporting this story and breaking this news. So let's check out one of the stories right here. And this story comes from the Fox News there in Greenville, South Carolina. So let's check out the clip.
A grand jury indicted a rapper on charges connected to a deadly club shooting last year. The rapper Foogiano, whose real name is Kwame Khalil Brown, was indicted for possessing a gun and ammunition, quote, in and affecting commerce to wit. Now, this comes after the shooting inside Lavish Lounge in July of 2020. Brown was performing at the club on White Horse Road when shots were fired near the stage. Deputies say it stemmed from a fight. Now, hundreds of people were inside at the time that this all happened. Investigators say 10 people were hurt, 2 later died.
Now, as you heard right there, during this situation, there was like an altercation and people got to fighting, then people got to shooting, man. And to say that this was a precursor to Foogiano's career is an understatement, man, to be real, because it seemed like trouble followed him after this situation continually. Now, man, let's look at some other news stories where they kind of broke down exactly what went down. Now, some of them, they get way more descriptive, and some of the, you hear the shooting going on in the club, so, man, be warned, man. But let's get to it. Now, in this very first clip, It just summarizes what took place in the night and all the people who were involved or whatnot.
People started screaming. They knew right away some people were injured.
If you got to take a gun with you to a nightclub or a sports bar, you need to stay at home.
Now, I had to stop right there to cut it off just to break down what we've seen so far. So, obviously, you have somebody from the local law enforcement there who's talking to the news, and you have different community leaders who came out to speak throughout the news cycle on this, or during the time that they were really covering this story. And man, they've still been covering it, and they've still been trying to piece things together. But man, you've got different community leaders, saying things. And I got a foot stomp what dude said, man. It's a shame that you can't go to a sports bar or a club to watch your favorite rapper perform without, packing, man. This is crazy, man. Now, there's a little bit of an over-exaggeration here. Like, you don't have to be packing to be up at. Like, I've been to plenty of shows and clubs and stuff, and it wasn't even an issue. I go in, watch the rapper rap. It is what it is. But for some reason, man, cats have really been turning up lately. So, man, it puts a lot of people on guard. But let's continue with this next news story and what they say.
Tonight at 11, I'm Joe Ripley. Breaking news tonight, Greenville County deputies tonight trying to identify 4 persons of interest in a nightclub shooting that killed 2 and injured 8 others. It is a nightclub that officials say never should have been open in the first place. Here's a look at those photos just released tonight by the Greenville County Sheriff's Office of those 4 persons of interest. Deputies driving by Lavish Lounge heard gunshots around 1:45 this morning. More deputies rushed to the scene. The club was hosting a concert. Bystanders captured the moments the shots rang out. You can hear loud music playing, then chaos erupts. The recording goes dark, but you can hear the shooting and people running for cover.
Now, these news reports are taken from the morning of the shooting. So, when they're talking about this, they're talking about the actual time that it took place, right? Now, if you listen, like, this was the next day, and they already had 4 people that they had as suspects, or not even suspects. They had them as people of interest that they wanted to talk to. None of those people look like they are Foogiano, man. None of those people look like they were from Foogiano's entourage or anything, even though I don't know in that case. But somehow they came up with charges for Foogiano in this case. Now, in this next part of the news story, they're going to break it down from the local scene of what took place, and everybody is combing the crime scene to figure out what is happening. You know what I mean? Let's check that out as well.
As some victims were taken to the hospital via EMS, but others,
A lot of them were transported from somebody that was here, where they just threw somebody in a car and took off and tried to get them to the hospital. Fortunately, the hospital is extremely close by us.
Lewis described the scene left behind inside Lavish Lounge.
There's a small stage where some artist or group was performing. Everything's turned over. There's a few chairs in there. There's food on the floor, some bottles busted. You can tell somebody left in a hurry. There's some pretty large amounts of blood in various parts of the club.
Investigators were on site to look through evidence.
Now, as you heard there, the scene was crazy, man. Obviously, somebody who was left the VIP section, and I'm not saying that was Foogiano and his crew, they obviously left in a hurry, threw like all the food like on the ground and just dipped. And that could have been anybody. It could have been somebody who bought a VIP table. They were watching the show or whatever, and then gunfire starts to erupt and they dip. You know what I'm saying? But they also pointed out the fact that since they were at a close proximity to the hospital, people were able to, move people into their own personal vehicles and take them directly to the hospital to receive medical treatment. And that way, I'm guessing that led to less casualties and had people being seen quicker, man. Because imagine all of those people, I think it was like 10 people shot and 2 passed away, rest in peace to them. Yo, if all of those people would be waiting for an ambulance, man, you could have more casualties potentially, you know what I'm saying? So it's a horrible situation. Now, what's crazy is during all the reporting over the last year, you haven't heard anything about Foogiano. Well, in several reports that have come out, they say this about why Foogiano was included in this situation, man. According to Greenville News, the shooting was one of the largest shootings in Greenville recent history. Now, according to investigators, although Foogiano was not the one who pulled the trigger, he is at least partially responsible as the man who actually did do the shooting, Jarquez Cooper. Now, Cooper is believed to be part of Foogiano's entourage. Now, I'm not sure if Jarquez Cooper is one of the guys that was pointed out in that picture, of the 4 potential suspects, or the 4 people of interest, I should say. Now, this report from Uprocks goes on to say Foogiano also had a Glock 40 on the night of the shooting, which as a convicted felon meant he was also committing another felony. Now, how do they know that Foogiano had a Glock 40 is what I'm thinking. But let me continue. He's currently in custody in South Carolina, awaiting return to Georgia on his previous charges. Foogiano isn't the only 1017 artist facing significant prison time. Another recent Gucci man, Fine Pushaisi, had his breakout year interrupted after being arrested in an aggravated battery charge following his own club shooting. So, man, it's looking like there's a lot going on over at 1017 as far as their team is concerned. And this July 2020 case from that Lavish lounge just came back to bite Foogiano, man. I know for his team, this is probably horrible news. I'm not sure if he has an opportunity to beat this as well, because, I mean, can they prove that Foogiano had a weapon, unless they have something on camera? That could be hearsay. But right now, it's Fed time and it's Fed charges, so they don't play. So it's looking like Foogiano's got this fight on his hand as well. Now, with that, this being your boy Big Man, what do you guys think? Do you think Foogiano was just out here wilding, man? I know that was like the night that he had basically made it, cracked into the industry. And do you think it's a potential that he was out here giving people, the blicky to go and handle their business? Or do you think that maybe that's not the case and Foogiano is potentially innocent in all charges that have been levied against him? We'll say that much. Now, with that, this has been your boy Big Man. Do me a favor. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that notification bell so that way you get a notification every time I drop this hot content. And we out of here. Peace.